Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Karim Hatem. As the ceasefire agreement takes hold in Lebanon, the fate of more than 1 million displaced Lebanese people hangs in the balance, as many try to return to their homes amid warnings to avoid certain areas. Questions about the safety of returning displaced civilians, the conditions they face in temporary shelters, and the role of international communities in providing support are more pressing than ever. Moreover, the frustration of Israeli settlers who hope to return to evacuated areas of northern Israel may put the Israeli occupation government in a difficult situation. But will this ceasefire offer a genuine opportunity for displaced Lebanese to rebuild their lives, or is it simply a temporary pause in an ongoing crisis?
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Following the ceasefire, thousands of people displaced from war-torn southern Lebanon have begun returning home amid fears on both sides of the border about whether the truce would hold. The Guardian described how the forcibly displaced reacted to the ceasefire as Lebanon's motorways were thronged with packed vehicles carrying families and their belongings returning south, despite warnings from the Israeli military that they should stay away while its forces remained in the area. Additionally, the Lebanese army asked the displaced civilians to avoid frontline villages and towns near the UN-drawn blue line that separates the two countries. According to The Guardian, Israeli military declared a curfew for southern Lebanon from 5 p.m. on Wednesday until 7 a.m. on Thursday, prohibiting people north of the Litani River in Lebanon from traveling south towards the border with Israel.
Following a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, thousands of forcibly displaced citizens from southern Lebanon have begun to return home amidst ongoing concerns about the stability of the truce. The ceasefire, which took effect early Wednesday, was brokered by the US and is intended to provide a 60-day window for both Israeli and Hezbollah forces to withdraw from the area. In the wake of the ceasefire, heavy traffic was reported on highways leading from Beirut to southern Lebanon as families sought to return after months of displacement. The UN Refugee Agency reported that over 900,000 people had fled their homes due to intense Israeli bombing. Despite the ceasefire, Israeli military spokesperson Avichai Adrai announced a curfew in southern Lebanon, restricting movement of residents north of the Litani River, who are prohibited from traveling south until there is a full withdrawal of Israeli forces. Meanwhile, Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri has urged displaced residents to return to their homes despite extensive destruction. Moreover, the Lebanese army has increased its presence in the south to monitor compliance with the ceasefire agreement. In Israel, residents from northern communities are also hesitant to return, fearing that the ceasefire may not hold. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed that one of the aims of the truce was to allow citizens to safely return to areas threatened by conflict. As the ceasefire comes into force, the future remains uncertain for the displaced, who fear that it won't last.
For more analysis, we are joined from Beirut by Rabia Al-Habra, a writer and political researcher, and from Occupy Jerusalem, we are joined by Dr. Abdel Nasser Mekki, a professor of political science. Welcome. Let's start with Beirut, with Mr. Rabia. Now, what is the situation of the Lebanese people returning to their homes in southern Lebanon in the wake of the ceasefire deal between Lebanon and Israel?
I just heard. Good evening. I've just heard the news that the two villages of Yarun and Aitarun were subjected to heavy shelling from the Israeli positions in the south of Lebanon. The Lebanese situation of the people returning back to their homes is really tragic because the people are homeless. They are returning back because they need to go back to their villages. They are afraid of a continuous or a new attack from the Israeli army against their villages, but they are happy to go back home because their situation, their living conditions inside Lebanon and in Beirut and in Mount Lebanon were really not fine and not okay. Now today we can see that people ran away after a call, ran to the south, went back to the south very quickly after a call from the President Nabih Berri, the Speaker of Parliament, to settle back in their villages and cities, but they still suffer from a cut of communication. There is no internet. There is no communication. Electricity started to come back today. They have like an issue with the water supply. People are still not well
Yeah.
settled, but
Mr. Rabia, I want to build on what you just mentioned concerning villages that have been shelled in the past few hours. There has been a trade of accusations of ceasefire violations in the past perhaps few hours. How do you think the people are going to return to their homes with these violations and with these accusations? And is it true perhaps that these violations subject the ceasefire to a very fragile course?
of course, the situation is very fragile. As I told you, people are afraid of a new Israeli aggression against them. But both villages of Yarun and I don't know the name of the other villages, the village were subjected like 2 minutes ago by the new shelling. Not 2 hours or 3 hours. 2 minutes ago, they were subjected to shelling. People are afraid of what may happen anytime. What I think is that the ceasefire is still fragile because with the deployment of the Lebanese army and with the new orders given to the UNIFIL forces in the south, the ceasefire is still waiting for a full implementation of the agreement. And the full implementation of the agreement is not done yet. We are still expecting more and more measures to be taken to settle up this and to arrange more the agreement and to arrange the situation in the south. Hezbollah forces did not deploy back in the villages, but the Israeli army is still deployed in the southern villages of Lebanon, and they will not withdraw from these villages before the full deployment of the Lebanese army, and this needs around 60 days to be done. So all the situation is still fragile, and I don't know if we will expect a second round of violence in the south of Lebanon, and I do not know if the situation will deteriorate soon or this agreement will hold on for until the end of the
All right.
60 days until we see a better deployment for the Lebanese army and a better settlement and execution of the agreement.
All right. Dr. Abdel Nasser, now, what's your comments on all of this? Because it's not just that people are trying to return to their home and there are accusations of violations of the ceasefire deal. Netanyahu has stated many times that he's pursuing all his targets for this war is for people in Israel and the Israeli settlers to return to the settlements in the northern part of Israel. What do you think of that?
Yes, I think that that what you're just saying, yes, it's true, because as you know, hundred thousands of people from South Lebanon, they return back to to their villages. Meanwhile, the Israeli settlements, that settlers, Until now, they didn't, that even agree to return back to their settlements. And besides that, also the Israeli government didn't allow them. It's not, they didn't impose them not to go, but the Israeli government until now didn't give that signal to these people to come back to their settlements. But the settlers themselves didn't want to go to return back until, that after the 60 days, according to the agreement. And even that, when Prime Minister Netanyahu said about, that's for to go to victory or to allow the people from north of Israel to return back to their villages. Uh, Nothing happened. There is agreement. 60 days. After that, I think even the Israeli settlers will not go back until they have that sure about that they will not be, that the Hezbollah will be out from the area, and even they allow, request to that Hezbollah to go back to Litani River. By the way, there is a survey happened in Israel. About 80% is from the Israeli in the north part of Israel. They are against this agreement. They see this agreement is not good for them. And inside the Israeli, there is about 37 from the Israeli. They agree or supporting this ceasefire, and 32 is against, while 31 is not. They have a neutral. So. And
But
also some of
Netanyahu responded to these opinions, didn't he? He mentioned three reasons why he accepted the ceasefire, and perhaps there are
Yes,
others
yes.
in his cabinet that do not really agree, but they do understand that they need to, according to them, focus on other matters and priorities.
Yes, yes, yes. According to Netanyahu, what he said, he is, the three things, or there is three, that's subject that Netanyahu is focused on, like the Iranian freedom, and also about the separation Gaza from the South Lebanon, and also in order to reactivate the Israeli army. As you know, it's fight in the south and also in the north. So Netanyahu, as you know, is supporting this agreement. And I don't think that he's supporting by himself, because there are the Biden, administrative, and also the French government. And also there are from the security, that people like that they supporting this agreement in order to give the soldiers the opportunity to have rest, and also to focus on the Gaza,
All right.
that front. So
Right.
this is the situation. And even that Ben Ghafir, he is the minister of security. He against, while Smotrich, the other one, he said that he with this agreement. So we could see that how could this things happened inside Israel.
All right. Mr. Rabiana, given the fact that the Israeli settlers are not returning to the northern parts, the northern settlements, and the Lebanese people, they are facing danger when they're returning to their homes, if their homes and their villages, the infrastructure has been impacted negatively. Where does that leave us with the ceasefire deal right now? And concerning that, the part of the ceasefire is that people would return to their homes.
Yes, of course. Part of the ceasefire is bringing people back to their homes, and all on both sides, on the Israeli side and on the Lebanese side. But until today, the Lebanese people returned back in a big portion, unless those villages on the south of the Litani River. And today, a call from Afichai Adroei, the spokesman from the Israeli army, was very clear not to let people come back to their homes unless there is a green light from the Israeli army. All this agreement in a fragile position. What I think is, unless that we see all people came back to their villages and returned back to their homes, there is no settled agreement. There is no clear agreement. There is no full implementation of the agreement. The Netanyahu government and the Israeli army should let people go back to their homes and should, of course, and very quickly withdraw from Lebanon and allow the Lebanese army to take full control of all the Lebanese territory. And what we have is a newly occupied area in Lebanon, a new
All right.
security belt, which should be handled to the Lebanese army, and given the authority on these areas should be given to the Lebanese army. Otherwise, the agreement is not implemented yet.
Right. Mr. Rabia, there has been support from the international community, according to their envoys. Now, we've seen the envoy from the United States, Amos Hochstein, being in Lebanon and trying to conduct the ceasefire deal that resulted in what we have now. And also France has pledged support for reconstruction efforts. It's not just the infrastructure physically. However, there has been support also to the Lebanese government. We've seen Jean-Yves Le Drian, the French envoy, today in Lebanon, in Beirut. What do you think of these international efforts right now supporting Lebanon, and where can it lead?
First, it should reach a place where they support the Lebanese authorities to fully implement the agreement, which means they should support Lebanon politically on the side of Iran. They should push Iran to assist the Lebanese government to fully implement the activity and assist the Lebanese government to have an agreement with Hezbollah to allow the Lebanese army and to allow mainly to allow the Lebanese army to disarm Hezbollah or withdraw Hezbollah from the front line. This is number one. And on the political level, they should find a reconciliation in Lebanon, a kind of agreement between the Lebanese to be able to elect a new president and to have constitutional reforms in Lebanon. I don't mean reforms here, but I mean is to have we have a constitutional void. They should elect a Lebanese president at once and to fill the void positions.
Right. Nabil Berri, he did announce that there's going to be elections on the 9th of January for the parliament to choose a president.
That's what they announced. Really, what happens, we don't know. I don't think that we will be having a new president on the 9th of December, but at least we will have
January. It's the 9th of January.
January, yes, but at least we will have a new effort or an initiative to elect a president. But I don't know if this activity will be successful. It needs an internal reconciliation and an internal agreement to reach a new president for Lebanon.
Dr. Abdel Nasser, how do you comment on the international community's efforts to build on the ceasefire deal that has happened in Lebanon to include Gaza and to include de-escalation in the region as a whole?
I think the international community, that's maybe will have and it could put on the two sides, in the Hezbollah and also in the Israeli side. Also, this is from the political side, and also from the economic, and also from the assistance side for the Lebanese people, and also for the, as you know, for the refugee, for the southern part of Lebanon, and even from even Beirut. But if we could make if you want to say that about how could also the international community will support even in the Gaza, if you this questions, that's also you want to arise about the international community for Gaza also?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think the international community until now didn't reach to a point that could support the Palestinian in this horrible and in this desirable and in this also disaster in Gaza, because as you know, now in Gaza people, about 2 million, they are living in miserable, the situation. the lack of food, the lack of water, the cold, and also the Israeli until now they destroy and also they bomb and they killing. And also they destroy all the hospital. So what we see, even what we saw in the TV and the channels, it's something horrible because until now the international community is not full responsibility to their commitment to Gaza. They are watching, that's what happening in Gaza as they are watching a film. Now
But
this
is there an
something.
opportunity, Dr. Abdel Nasser, here for to build on the ceasefire in Lebanon? Because we've seen statements from the EU officials, for example, Josep Borrell. He mentioned that it's very important, it's imperative to build on the ceasefire deal, to include Gaza, and to stop the violations of the international law and humanitarian law in Gaza. So there's actually a vision towards building on the ceasefire in Lebanon, whether it's fragile or not, but trying to include Gaza in the ceasefire. Is it possible?
Yes, I think it's possible. And now they are starting to work in this. And as you know, now the minister of the intelligence from Egypt, now today he came to Israel in order to discuss about, that's about the deal agreement between the Israeli and between Hamas for the release of that's the prisoners. And also in the same time, there is many movements from even the American administrative, like President Biden said today that he will support, that ceasefire in Gaza, and at the same time he said that the prisoners should be released. And also, as you see, that there are so many demonstrations started yesterday on Israel. They are demanding to release the prisoner, to make agreement between Hamas and between Israel after they finish the war in Lebanon. So there is something remaining now is just the case of Gaza. They are not talking, the Israeli side, by the way, they are not talking from the humanitarian to the Palestinian, but they are talking from their prisoners. So this is something good, even that, because they are starting to make demonstration, but in the same time, the international community, and you said about Joseph Borrell from from the European community, European Union, he said that they should build on the ceasefire in Gaza in order to finish the tragedy in Gaza. Otherwise, it's will continue, and the international community should be
Right.
interfere more and more, especially in the humanitarian, in interfering, that's entering the aids to Gaza. The people is now the people is dying from the starvation, from the cold, the and also the children, the
Right.
women. So what is remaining? They should now, the international community should push, should pressure on Israeli government in order to stop this massacre in Gaza.
Mr. Rabia, finally, do you think that, I mean, it's the same question, do you think we can build on the ceasefire deal? But it's not just to include Gaza, but to de-escalate in the region as a whole. However, we see that there are some conditions in the ceasefire deal that perhaps are not really clear, because the Israeli forces are still present in the area, imposing curfews in parts of southern Lebanon. What authority, perhaps, or legitimacy can the Israeli army, the occupation forces and the occupation army can have in the southern Lebanon and build on the conditions of the ceasefire in order to actually de-escalate tensions, not just in Lebanon, but to also include all parts of the region?
If we go back to war, the clashes on the front border of south of Lebanon, I believe that we will go into a more severe war than before. The current condition is that the agreement is not fully implemented yet. It needs time to be fully implemented. It will take few more days, few more weeks, maybe another 1 month until it is fully implemented. But until today, I see that with reference to what happened today and now, I can see that we have more raids on the south of Lebanon. Now we have one raid on the Baysariya and the Fahta area, an air raid, daily air raid on the Baysariya and the Fahta area in the south of Lebanon. Until that time, we are still in
Right.
war. until the Israeli occupation is removed from the south and withdraw, until the time that they withdraw from, we are still in war.
Right. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. Thank you very much. That was Rabia Al-Habra, writer and political researcher, joining us from Beirut. And thank you also to Dr. Abdel Nasser Miki, a professor of political science from occupied Jerusalem. And that brings us to the end of this episode of In Depth. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more on Q News.